with our next guest from the markets. That is, we have Dr. S.Subramanian, who's Managing Director, Head Institutional Equities, joining in to discuss the hot mid-cap themes that one would be, essentially addressing at the Axis Capital Investor Conference. The Axis Rising Stars Conference is likely to unveil some of the value gems in the market. Dr. Subramanian, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks very much for taking out the time. Given where valuations stand and given the market mayhem, especially what we've seen in the mid caps and the small caps, do you think that there is time to figure out and decipher value in the markets just as yet, or do you think that there's perhaps some more pain in the system where valuations will become compelling to step in and buy?
I think that's exactly what investors want to find out. That's exactly we are looking to show to investors from the corporate side through this conference. We have about 45 companies spread over 2 days, today and tomorrow, coming in and meeting up with these companies, and we have a significant interest from investors to come and meet them one-on-one and to ask exactly the questions that you are asking. Is there value? Is there still value? Will it correct further? What's happening to their growth? All of these questions are being put to those companies. From our side, we are seeing interest come through from investors across the spectrum of companies. We have companies from technology, from manufacturing, from financial services, from consumer, and across the board. There is and healthcare. There's no sector which is underrepresented in this mid-cap conference of ours.
Okay. Historically, if I look at your mid-cap conferences, they've been anchored around themes and sectors or large big picture, big picture processes. Is there an anchoring theme for this conference?
The anchoring theme for the conference is simply that we are seeing too many worries about market mayhem and correction, while we find that these companies, enough of them have good stories, enough of them have good growth potential, and the whole anchoring theme is that there are enough opportunities in the mid-cap space even today that give a fantastic opportunity for people to participate in.
45 companies, and what is the common thread here? I mean, again I go back to that same argument, because there has to be a common thread which you must be trying to send across. I mean, is it centered around macros? Is it centered on our earnings recovery? Is it centered around consumption demand? Because you've handpicked 45 companies, so there must be a thinking behind this.
The whole thing is that we are seeing consumption demand come through, and we are continuing to see earnings recovery come through. Both of these are the underlying demand. Whether we have companies in the financial sector, whether we are having companies in the consumer space, we are seeing great amount of consumption demand coming through. We are also seeing a lot of companies which we are seeing operating leverage kick in, and we are seeing earnings growth come through. So both of these are the underlying themes going throughout these 45 companies that are present in our conference.
Okay. Would this conference also talk about contrarian ideas at this point? Because you've just come out of an earnings season. There's fresh assumptions being built about FY19 and the earnings trajectory there, and where some of the mid caps or the underdogs can actually outperform.
I'm not so sure what you call by contrarian, but if you think that Pidilite is a contrarian, yes, it is contrarian. It's a stock which we like even at this price, which is coming through. We are seeing technology companies like matrimony.com, where we are seeing growth come through. Is that a contrarian theme? Yes, it is a contrarian theme to what the market has been talking about, we are seeing some of them come through. But the most of the stocks and the companies which we are coming here are showcasing continued long-term demand come through. They are showing operating leverage. They are showing earnings recovery come through.
Representation both from Tejas Networks and Sterlite Technologies, which is essentially data. So is data the big idea which you are showcasing at this conference, that there's a data boom and then you go to buy the nuts and the bolts and the first derivative and the second derivatives of the data beneficiaries?
Both of these, Tejas and Sterlite Technologies, are definitely beneficiaries of the data. But they are just 2 companies out of the 45 companies. Therefore, I would not call them all data driven. While, of course, the entire banking sector, BFSI companies which are present here, are big users of data analytics. And therefore, you are seeing companies like Equitas and all which use data intelligently and using it in big data formats to mine and ensure that they are able to lend profitably is also there. So data is a recurring theme, and it's a theme that not just goes to you're talking about the nuts and bolts providers, but also the others who use data on a compelling basis as a part of their ongoing strategy to run their businesses. That is definitely one big story.
Flash coming from IFC, and they're saying that, look, we've not cut prices by 60 paisa, we've only cut prices by 1 paisa, and what we reported on the website earlier was a mistake. I rest my case there. What we reported on the website earlier was a mistake, and the diesel price cut has been only 1 paisa versus 56 paisa as reported earlier. I'll take a liberty of going outside the scope of this conference, because I'm really tempted to understand what's happening to PSU stocks. You've been part of fundraising, you've been part of the M&A team, you've been part of the capital market team. Government this year has a target of 1 lakh crore to raise from by the disinvestment route. But given how there has been a flip-flop in government policy, the state of PSU banks, the state of other PSU enterprise, do you think it would be a tough challenge for government this year to raise 1 lakh crore?
See, PSU banks is has anyway not been part of the divestment targets ever, because PSU banks have always been raising money for themselves, and it has never been part since 2004. They've never been part of that. But larger companies, like whether it is BHEL, whether it is IOCL, whether it is Coal India, whether it is any of those other companies, are still possible divestment targets. Whether it's 1 lakh crore is going to be met or not depends upon as to how the process is being laid out throughout the year. We have now, May is over, we have 10 months to go, and given that there is continued flow of funds into the system, and many of the PSU companies continue to value are very attractive valuations, I think that it is not impossible for government to do that. And let's not forget about divestment does not only mean selling in directly. The government has done it through ETFs, and the government has also done it through the merger of HPCL ONGC. There are possibilities for the government to look at all of these, and therefore a 1 lakh crore target is not an unachievable number. We still have 10 months to go.
As Dr. Subramanian, as far as this conference grows, some exciting opportunities are likely to be discussed, and we look forward to those. Thanks very much for taking out the time to speak with us this morning.
Sure.
Okay, time now for a short break. When we come back, get you some interesting technical analysis from my colleague Kunal Bothra. You can't afford to miss that, so stay tuned.